Today's tech space is littered with a plethora of innovation, and the intersection of artificial intelligence in the legal domain is no exception. This advancement raises complex ethical, privacy, and regulatory challenges. What will the legal field look like in a few years with all these developments? In today's episode, we sit with lawyer and AI expert Daniel Deutsch to explore the intersections of law and AI in today's tech wave. Enjoy today's episode. This episode is brought to you by Big Spark. Big Spark is the UK's fastest growing data solutions consultancy, translating your business needs into data architecture, strategy, and engineering. Together with their technical partners, they focus on swift and efficient business value delivery. Taking an innovative approach to every challenge, Big Spark is an agile team of over 100 world-class engineers and data scientists pushing the boundaries of what can be achieved with AI, data, software, cloud, and machine learning. To find out how Big Spark can ignite your data solution, visit us at www.bigspark.dev. Big Spark, igniting change through engineering. All right. Okay, so hi everyone, and welcome to the TechSelf podcast. Today we have an amazing person, an intriguing background to come and have some very interesting conversations that are very current to our lives today. So I wouldn't want to, spoil the introduction. I'll let Daniel go ahead and introduce himself. So Daniel, tell us a bit about yourself. A bit about your background, who you are, where you live, and then we can proceed.
Sure thing. Thanks a lot for the invitation. My name is Daniel, and I'm currently living in Vienna, Austria. And I studied business law in Vienna and also artificial intelligence in Austria. It's not in Vienna; it's on the more or less on the countryside. And in the process of finishing this master studies as well. And basically, that's my unique point that I basically studied business law to a master's degree and also artificial intelligence. And on the side, I worked as a data scientist and also have some side projects related to machine learning and artificial intelligence. And yes, so my career and my journey in terms of work started with web development and ended up in artificial intelligence. And in terms of law, I did a lot in tax law, and also started the program that we have in Austria where you have to join the court and help there in various related matter. And at that point, I decided to switch more or less to machine learning and data science, and now I try to combine the knowledge from law and machine learning in my everyday work.
Right. That's nice. So, how does it feel to be the hottest thing in the world today? Because we are talking about AI being, a very current domain, and then we're also talking about, the legal part of AI, and you are just all that in one person. How does it feel to be the hottest thing in the world today?
Thanks, man. Well, I think it's actually trying to combine two very different fields, and I think it's very challenging actually, because the challenges that have been in programming and also in law, they are already quite demanding, I would say. But now, as you try to combine both artificial intelligence and law, you come very close to philosophical questions. You need to answer yourself, and also humanity or society needs to ask themselves, and then answer it to actually propose some regulation regarding AI.
Hmm.
And that's quite challenging, but it's also nice. And in terms of being the hottest thing, I think it really depends on oneself. How you market yourself, and
Mm,
especially what you do with all that knowledge, right? So
right.
one thing is acquiring the knowledge, and the other thing is actually applying it. And
Mm,
as you guys might know as well, sometimes it's a different of what you learn in university and what you do in
right.
real life, especially in law.
Right.
But also in theoretical fields of machine learning and AI, it also heavily differs from uh, reality or real life practice, let's say it like that.
Right. Right. Okay, so law. I'm just thinking of you as a young lad who finished senior high school and then you were thinking about the next thing to do and then you chose law. Can you just walk us through how the desire for law came about? Why did you choose law above or amongst many options you had?
Yes. So I was actually at the countryside in Austria,
Okay.
and I thought about studying something I really do not understand. So I decided to go, yes, to go to Vienna and study business and economics.
Okay.
And in this program, we had some classes on law,
Okay.
uh, because you also need to understand the basics of law if you pursue those studies. And then I realized that it's something I like much more than just business, because of the logic way how you reason in front of court, or how you reason in with legal cases. And at that point, I decided I pursue this direction more, and I was very happy with this because it's very logic based, and it's also quite real life related, because we all at one point in our lives deal with law. It can be simple cases like, you receive damaged goods and then you don't want to have those, and it's just nice to know your way around this. And also, what I realized when studying law is that it tells us a lot about our society and civilization as a whole. For example, also the differences between American law, or English law,
Mm,
and then you have European law, which is a little
right.
bit different. So,
Right.
yeah, it is a quite rewarding study program. And for me personally, it's just how logically structured law
Mm,
was at that time.
right.
That's why I switched from business to law. And in
Right.
the end, actually, the program is called business law. So
Mm,
basically, one year we have very strong focus on business related aspects of law.
right.
Meaning, if you have conversations with other companies or tax related stuff, things
Right.
like this. So there is a
Right.
nice focus on that.
Right. Well, I would say the closest, I don't know about McLean, but the closest I've gotten to law is reading TNC, Terms and Conditions.
Yeah,
And we don't read it as much, I believe. Yeah, but then
definitely.
as one who is a lawyer, I'm sure you've had to deal with a lot of such cases. So let's talk about that transition into tech. So you are a lawyer, you are reading law, business law, you like the logic of it and everything. Then all of a sudden you just want to start doing tech. It's quite a rare thing to happen. I don't know, but I just find it to be quite a unique. I'm not saying that people do not do it, but then to have you just go into tech like that, I don't know how the background in senior high school was, or maybe your law program you had the chance to maybe do some IT. I don't know. Just walk us through how the technology part came in.
Sure thing, and thanks for the kind words. Um, yes, so basically in my high school, I did not have anything or very little to do with programming.
Mm,
I actually had a course with programming that I decided to choose for myself. But apart from this, there was not a lot of programming or related to the study program or high school or whatever. In fact, I actually did in high school. The focus was on nature or yeah, science, nature science related
right,
aspects, but it, as a young male, or in my case as a young male, and also my bubble, many people were talking about successful programmers and
right,
successful tech companies.
right.
So it was always interesting for me, and it was always in the back of my head to pursue something like this. But the real triggering emotion was when I was in working in tax law. I was some sort of a tax consultant,
Right.
and I was in a big firm, not the one of the big fours, but another big one.
Right.
And we were doing all these returns, all these tax returns, and financial statements, and it was
Right.
always the same behavior, always repeating the same processes. And even though we had some software, I was talking to the partner and to the manager, if we couldn't automate all of this. And
Mm.
they said, no, no, it's not necessary. You need to do that by hand. And I say, no, no, it's we have a nice age with technology.
Right.
Please automate it.
Right.
We can save so much time and
Right.
also money, because we
Mm.
charge clients for that.
Right.
And they said, no, 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 we do not do it like that. And I said,
Right.
all right, then I need to teach it myself and create something myself. And that's actually when I quit the job, and then I decided to learn programming on my own, and I started
Okay.
with web development, like I
Okay.
think most of the people do. And it is very rewarding starting with web
Mm.
development because
Mm.
you get the feedback immediately.
Right.
You start with HTML,
Mm.
CSS, JavaScript, and it's
Right.
very nice to actually see when you program your first
Yeah.
homepage, stuff like this.
Yeah. Typical what you see is what you get, right? McLean.
Exactly,
He
exactly.
is more of a front end developer, so he just loves to hear things like that. Right,
Yes,
McLean?
Yeah, I
yes,
mean it's always nice to program. It's like the an eureka moment where you program your first software and you go like, wow,
Wow. You
yeah,
feel
this is
yeah,
really
yeah,
interesting. You feel good. You feel like
you feel like you can create your own Facebook,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
You can create your own Facebook. Okay, that's great. All right.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So tech and law. How do you marry both of them on a daily basis? I'm just thinking about like what does your mind look like on a daily basis as a tech person or as a law in fact as a lawyer who is also a techie. How does your daily activity look like?
So for now, as I'm basically completely transitioning into the tech space and also
Right,
programming, and yeah, let's just say tech space.
right,
You have to deal with legal related aspects every day. So if you work as an entrepreneur, of course you have everything to do with business is related to legal aspects as well. It
right,
starts, by defining some terms and conditions.
right.
But in relation to AI and machine learning, of course, the most important aspect is data privacy,
Mm,
and to a higher degree also how you prevent certain bias from happening. Because if you incorporate some biases in your machine learning models, then you also discriminate people, right?
right.
So those aspects, I would say, are currently the most pressing ones
Mm,
related to AI and
right,
machine learning. But apart from this, it depends really on the industry that you're working on. So when I worked as a data scientist now, uh, at the last company, we had clients and partners that were bank institutes,
right,
and they need to comply with a lot of regulation, right?
right.
So in those terms, you always need to have transparency
Mm,
in mind in your whole programming value chain,
right,
right? Because it's not enough to say we decide like this or the model decides like this.
right,
You need to explain why it was decided like that. You need to
right,
explain it to the bank,
right.
but also the
Right.
customer.
Explainable AI, right?
Exactly,
Right,
exactly. That's the term here.
right.
But also in terms of company structure,
Mm,
all the processes need to be documented and transparent. So all the other
mm,
departments also know what you are doing and why you are doing it. So this goes down to knowledge database and knowledge management, more or less.
mm,
So, and as I said, it's really depending on the industry or the
mm,
partners or the clients that you have,
right.
because depending on that, you will have different regulations and also different requirements. So, let's say if you provide a product to a customer, of course, you need to have some consumer based laws in mind. You cannot just do whatever you like
Mm,
because you are a powerful company and you're
right,
serving the consumer. So
right.
that's a little bit different than B2B business
Mm, right,
transactions.
right.
So Yes, I would
That's
say that.
interesting. That's interesting. Now let's go back into your field, your first field as a business lawyer, right? What impact do you think technology is going to have in the legal profession? I know you said you're transitioning somewhat into the tech space, but currently, law as a profession, what do you think? Like, what kind of impact do you think technology is going to have on this domain or on this profession?
Yeah. Well, obviously, it has a huge impact, um, especially currently with the hype of ChatGPT and large language models.
Mm,
So I think the challenge with law, and especially Austrian or European law, is that you would need to fine tune a large language model on the language.
mm,
Sometimes that's already a problem. You know, German language, or in Europe you have different languages, right?
right.
Um, and the other aspect is that the large language models really needs to model the law, the somehow logic
Mm,
of the reasoning when you decide a certain case, or when you decide a certain legal case,
right.
because you have many inputs, right? You have the law itself, then you have court decisions,
Right.
and then you have related cases that are currently ongoing, and all of this needs to be factored in when you decide a certain case.
Right.
Um, and in that, I think there is a lot. There will a lot will happen in this year due to the rise of LLMs. Before that, I was also investigating and also talking to firms, also global firms, and they were already developing, um, I would say, software solutions that help lawyers deciding cases. But before, it was really, how would I say, it was not intelligent, right? Yeah, it was a tool merely suggesting certain aspects. But now that you have a more intelligent agent, you can really frame more detailed case. And in terms of, I can only speak for Austria, and
Right.
that's what I witnessed.
Right.
You have databases on legal texts, and also on commentaries on books. So you know what experts and legal experts think about certain matters. And those firms, for example LexisNexis, they provide a
Right.
huge database, and they
Right.
also provide certain tools, search tools, and also AI tools.
Right.
And I think this is huge. So every firm or law firm, or every lawyer that does not use such tools, he has no chance in competing with other firms, because
Mm,
just the time that you would need to spend to find certain things,
mm,
and this is important. Just
mm,
finding
mm,
correct information
mm.
in a legal database, this is
Right.
already a huge concept. And
Right.
I think in this regard there is a lot of progress, and it's actually getting quite good in the legal field, because you get these AI bots as tools and as helpers.
Right.
And I'm not quite sure if you're familiar with the way how the law firms normally work.
Mm,
Again, I can only speak from the Austrian Viennese perspective,
right.
but it is most often so that you have an experienced lawyer at the top, or an
Right.
attorney, actually,
Right.
someone that can represent in front of court.
Right.
And then you have a lot of associates, and those are
Okay.
people that most often have finished their legal studies,
Right.
but they are not an attorney of law
Right.
yet, and so
Right.
they help, and they need to work a lot of hours.
Mm,
They need to work a lot and prepare everything for the
right.
partner lawyer.
Right.
And I think with AI you can really speed up the whole process.
Right. I'm actually very happy you mentioned lawyers who are not using these tools will not be able to compete, because in our previous episode we were talking about the vision of AI. AI is aiming to mimic human intelligence. That is the
Mhm.
goal of AI. So everything that a human being can do, AI is coming for that capability. So that segues into the next question.
Mhm.
What is your point of view about AI replacing lawyers fully? There is a lot of there's a lot going out there that AI is coming for my job. AI is coming for my job.
Yeah.
What do you think? Is AI really going to get rid of lawyers completely? As someone who is a lawyer and an AI expert.
Uh, well, obviously, my answer to this is no. It will
Okay.
never replace it. I think it's a really helpful tool. Um, it might replace some very simple work, some automatable processes. Those will be replaced, but there are not so many positions that do very mundane work in the legal field, anyways, because it requires some thinking effort.
Mm,
And I think your question is has many aspects to it.
mm,
So
mm.
first of all, at the current state of AI, we are not at that level that
Right.
everything is 100% correct
Right.
decided,
Right.
right?
Right.
Even with ChatGPT, which is very, very good, it is not trained on, for example, Austrian cases, right?
Right.
So it doesn't know about that.
Right. There are even
Um,
cases where it is actually given wrong, like spewed out the wrong law.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
So the state of large language models, you might be familiar with the term hallucinations, where
Mm,
the model produces something that is not even real. There was also
mm,
this famous case in America, somewhere, I think, where the attorney cited some decisions that did not even exist. So complete nonsense because he was relying on ChatGPT.
mm,
Um, and yeah, so let alone of this, because the state of AI and chatbots is not that sophisticated yet, there is no chance in replacing lawyers. But at one point, it might be so good and it might be so well trained
mm.
um, that you might always have the better decision that is aided by this ChatGPT or
Right.
robot
Right.
or AI robot.
Right.
But
Right.
then still, as law is something that is very um, em- very emotional for people,
Right.
right? Because
Right.
in law or in front of court, your
Right.
future can be decided. If you are in on trial, have um, if you have the chance or the danger that you go to jail because of something you did, you do not
Right.
want to have that decided by a robot,
Right.
that,
Right.
that
Right.
ends your
Right.
life
Right.
basically.
Right.
Or yeah,
Right.
actually, in some states you have also the death sentence. So this is the extreme.
Right.
And
Right.
I know humans would never accept that the robot decides whether they should live or not, right?
Right.
So
Right.
to answer your question now fully is no. I think even if we have perfect AI, there will always be a human chain link in
Mm,
between that will prevent some errors from happening.
mm,
But of course, we can also say that human also make mistakes, and there are
mm,
many misjudgments in
mm.
court as well. So,
Right.
but still, I think human would not accept to leave everything to a robot.
Right, right. Yeah, I think I was reading one article, I think from Lawyer Monthly, where it was talking about why empathy is a vital skill to develop in law, because you're dealing with cases that are very emotional and all that. So maybe for now, ChatGPT may not be very good, and maybe in the future, ChatGPT 720 may be very good, but to some extent, we still would need some form of human interaction. So that
Hmm.
replacement may not may happen as quickly as people are imagining. But we'll see. We'll see how tech evolves. We'll see how tech evolves.
Yeah, but it's a good time to be alive for sure. So
Yes,
I'm
definitely.
more on the optimistic side in this
Yes,
matter
yes.
because you hear it so often. AI replaces everything.
Yeah, right,
Especially law is so complex. It's
right,
very tough.
right, right,
Yeah,
right,
I think the evolution of tech and law is inevitable, and it's actually happening faster than what most of us think. Because I mean, take a look at when ChatGPT was rolled out, right? I think about a year ago, 2 years, and now look, we have ChatGPT 4, which is crazy. I mean, crazy. And I quite remember when ChatGPT was being rolled out. Was it GPT 3? Italy banned it, right? So
Mm,
Italy banned it for a while. Right now, it's approved it, and I think some of the fears behind AI is valid. Right? I mean, people fear that AI will replace us, and sometimes, as you guys just mentioned, you need empathy in fields such as even medicine. Right? If you don't really understand, AI might do some of the work, but sometimes the way a doctor interacts with a patient decides how the patient is diagnosed. Right. That being said, do you believe policymakers should implement strict measures regarding the use of AI in most crucial fields of work, like such as law, medicine? Do you believe policymakers should implement much more stricter measures?
Yeah, I think policymakers should definitely do something, and also regulation is necessary, as with every new technology and with every new innovation, because with innovation comes also potential danger.
Mm.
um, and of course, you need to regulate with certain measures. I think that the challenge here for the policymakers is to find the degree of regulation to not kill the innovation, but rather allowing it to thrive and also grow in a rather big framework. But this is very, very challenging, and you need to know a lot about the country. You also need to know about the state of the art of the technology. And yeah, so I'm always, of course, looking to Europe to see what the progress there is, but it is very, very challenging. And in terms of AI, um, I think at one point you need to let it develop for itself a little bit, as we have with ChatGPT. You know, it came out, I think, last year, so in autumn winter time, and everybody was blown away by its performance. But then
Right.
again, you would see the danger. You know, instructions on how to create bombs, how to build bombs, and the company itself, OpenAI, also regulated and narrowed down the competence of the language model.
Right.
And I think that's basically the way to go. Normally, I would say companies look for that for themselves, because of course it is bad news when everybody uses ChatGPT to do some criminal acts or something. But in terms of policymakers and politics, I think the way it is currently is a very nice way to do. Or to deal with such an innovation, because now the innovation is here, everybody knows about it. ChatGPT is here, and is here to stay. And
Right.
now all the countries are regulating step by step, and I think this is the best way on how you can regulate that. Of course, there are many voices that say, if you work like that, then at one point AI gets out of hand. But due to the state of the art where we are with AI, I think this is not such a big danger. But of course, there are voices that say, in terms of manipulation of the civilization. So, as we had with the US election, where certain bots influence the behavior of people. You
Right.
know, for example, Google or Meta has the opportunity or the power to
Right.
actually direct how people think and how to think about certain things. But I think this is something you cannot really control as a
Mm.
politician or as a policymaker,
Right.
because just to witness and understand what actually is happening, this
Right.
is a step that can only be done if it's
Right.
already too late, right?
Right.
Because you
Right.
cannot prevent everything, you cannot
Right.
foresee everything.
Right.
So
Right.
uh, uh, in this regard, I think we are on a good road, and especially with medicine, and also in Europe and in Austria, we have already very, very high regulation, in my opinion.
Right.
So compared to other countries, I think this is really not an issue for the civilization or the people living here, because we have so high standards,
Right.
uh, and the education level of a physician, of a doctor, is very high.
Right.
So, and also the liability, so the legal aspects coming into this. So
Right.
um, yeah, I think it's all. I think it's going on quite nicely. At least
Right.
in Europe, I can only speak for Europe, really.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Also, taking a look at like DAL-E, Stable Diffusion, Mid Journey for generating images, FN for music. Large language models like GPT are all trained on publicly available data, and IP of creators, IP of rappers, IP of, um, you know, um, painters, artists, and all that. How can
True.
creators make sure that their art is not replicated by a machine? Because, I mean, if my art is being replicated by Midjourney, obviously you won't need me anymore, right? But you
Mm,
train Midjourney um, based on my data, based on the art that I generated, which
Yes.
I have an IP to, right?
mm.
How do creators make sure that their art is not replicated by machine, and is the law on these creators' side?
Okay, it's a very good question, very interesting field, and I think there are many aspects to it. So, from one perspective is when you are the artist and you do not want to have your thing or your art copied. So, I think in most countries it is most certainly so in Austria, but I think in many other countries as well. The copyright law that you have there is sufficient to deal with
Right.
that. So,
Right.
in terms of copyright law, you have if somebody duplicates your thing and it looks basically the same, so everybody would say, yeah, that's from you, but it isn't. It's just copied by someone. Then it's very clear that this is not allowed, or you will have some compensation for that. You have, of course, the trial. You will end up in court. But I think what you're referring to more or less is with technology like Dolly or Midjourney. This gets very, how do I say, it's very hard to determine if someone copied something from you because it was just in the training data. um, and I think this is currently in the process in terms of policy making or also jurisdiction, because the supreme courts of each country need to decide at one point how do we deal with machine learning applications that use data and then produce something, or might be able to produce something really similar.
Right.
um, I'm not sure if there is any. At least I'm not aware of any recent court decision in that matter, because it's really difficult. And also, there is a lot of things to consider before that. So, if a company like let's take ChatGPT or also Midjourney, the applications, they were just trained on everything that is available. And as far as I know, the training of the publicly available stuff, it's okay, it's no problem. But then the problem is, what do you do with that? And you can do that with ChatGPT, but you can also do it with Midjourney. You can have prompt engineering to say this should look like a certain artist, right? And then it depends on the distinct case. If you declare yourself, I have used AI and the AI trained based on this artist, and with that, um, in the end, how you present the work and the product, this will result in if this is correct what you do, or if this is not allowed. So, of course, you cannot say you use Midjourney and use someone else's work and then you portray it as your own, and not
Mm,
even saying that you did not use AI. Then that's your problem, of course. Um, but if you're creating something that is completely new, let's say you merge two or three styles of artists, and you declare yourself, you have used AI, you have mixed
mm,
certain styles.
right.
I think it really depends on the end product. You can never say generally,
Right.
but if you do that and you declare it, I think that's fine. Because also, as an artist, if you're a painter, if you try to copy certain styles and you
Mm,
come up with your own distinct style, mixing
right.
existing
Right.
styles,
Right.
then that's all good. And I think, I mean, we will see how the courts will decide. But I think
Right.
this will still be allowed. And I
Right.
think also that the practice for freelancers, companies, or individuals
Right.
will also go in this direction, because
Right.
we do not want to have any lawsuits, right?
Right, right, exactly, exactly. And I think all you're saying is just transparency. I think, in our previous episode, one of the Joel said something similar. Just like, for example, when we on social media and you use someone's music, or even for me as a content creator, whenever I'm using something, I have to reference, where I got it from, the music. You see the CC. So for content creators out there, always be very sure where you're getting your images or your music from, because they
Exactly.
have licenses attached to them. And it's just being transparent about it, knowing that, okay, or letting everyone know that I use this from this source. I believe that transparency
Mhm.
it's going to be very important, because artists are also, the they have the right to have their art protected. It's the same way you have your knowledge protected in
Mhm.
terms of when you go to school and you're given about a certificate. They also go to school, have a certificate, and then create their art. So we should respect artists and creators in that regard. All
Absolutely.
right, all right. So I know we've spoken about law, tech, and everything. I just want us to just get to know a bit about you. What is life like out of your profession? What do you do? I know the weather in Austria may be very nice. Maybe you like skiing, or you like, cooking, like I do, or maybe you like playing video games like McLean, who can spend hours sitting behind FIFA. I don't know, but tell me a little bit about you.
All
What
right.
do you like to do outside work?
Yes. Well, so because I always worked and studied, I mean, right now I'm in the first time of my life that I'm be able to just work full time
Oh
and not
wow.
just work and study, because I always, for more than 10 years, I was not just always studying on the side, because
Oh, okay.
those degrees, they're so time consuming. Just
Right. I mean,
for
like I said, like you're the hottest thing in the market at the moment.
yeah,
Artificial intelligence and law.
yeah.
You probably don't have a life outside
Yeah,
school.
yeah, yeah, there is not so much life, but
Yeah.
yeah, no, everything is quite nice in balance. When I'm currently quite young and healthy, so all good. In terms of spare time, just like most people, I'm in my bubble. I do sport, quite a lot of sports. I have a
I need to
girlfriend.
learn from you. I have to admit I'm terrible at sports, but I need to learn from you.
Yeah, for me, it's necessary. It's the necessary
Okay.
balance, because if you sit, 10 hours, 12 hours a day in front of a computer or in
Mm,
front of books,
right.
you need some exercise. You need to
Right.
move that body.
Right. Right.
At least it's for me like that, and it's
Right.
also
Right.
so it's emotional release and balance,
Mm,
but
right.
also in terms of just feeling good and well. I also I had weeks where I was just working and just studying and working. I mean, we all have that at one point in our lives, right?
Right. Right.
So when I have this, I do not feel good, and you see the body is deteriorating.
Yeah. You start feeling it starts
Yeah,
kicking in.
yeah.
Right.
So
Right.
I really schedule sports quite a lot,
Mm,
and also friends and relationship, family,
right.
were
Right.
also very important, also for psychological health.
Mm,
And then meditation. I did a lot of the self-help books,
right.
stuff like this,
Right.
into meditation, and
Right.
also yeah, just trying to be in the moment, in the present moment. There
Right.
are people like Eckhart Tolle, some
Right.
philosophers,
Right.
or I'm also reading about Stoicism. And if
Right.
you try to live in the moment, it's a really nice life.
Right.
So when I
Right.
discovered Eckhart Tolle, do you know him or yeah?
Not much. Not much. I don't know, McLean. Do you? Not much. But it's
Okay.
quite some new information. I will check it out. I will check
Yeah,
it out.
I definitely recommend
Def.
it, because it
Right.
really changed my life. Because it basically says living in the moment is
Right.
all you need, and
Right.
you just people think too much on the lot,
Right.
so you
Well,
stop.
right. It's true, because I am from a Christian background, and one of my favorite memory verses is Matthew 6.
Mhm.
I think 33 or 34. It talks about, do not worry about tomorrow, for sufficient is the problems today. So it's very much the same
True,
concept
true.
that I just
Yes,
you
yes.
know regurgitated. All right.
He
So now,
also
now let's talk a little about tools. We talk about as techies or AI, blah blah blah. What tools do you use on your daily to make life easy for you? I know you say ChatGPT, but what other tools do you say that you use on a regular
Yeah.
to make life quite easy for you?
Okay. Of course, I need to say ChatGPT, but apart from this, as a programmer, I have my tech stack that I try to improve. So
Mhm.
not quite sure if the audience is so interested. VS Code is a
Mhm.
famous editor, or PyCharm. So for all full stack application, I use PyCharm, which is an IDE from IntelliJ, because
Mhm.
you have very nice integration for
Right,
database, terminal,
right, right,
stuff like this. So it's really
right,
nice.
right.
Um, so this is for the tech stack. I use Apple MacBook computer, so I never go back to anything else. Used it for the last 5 years.
Right,
Actually, I recently I had a conversation about a job position, and
right.
they wanted me to use Windows, and I said no. I'm not
Yeah.
dealing with
I
that.
don't honestly. I don't think if you give Windows to McLean, he will work. I'm sure McLean is just a Linux and Mac. That's all he wants to do.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't want to slander Microsoft products, but I don't think I will ever go back to Windows, no
Yeah,
matter.
it looks like Windows.
Yeah.
yeah.
Windows is quite. That's interesting. That's good.
Yeah, so in terms of tech,
Right.
and also for learning things
Mm,
and keeping things in mind, there is this flashcard system called Anki. There are also many videos on the internet with how you can learn stuff faster with spaced repetition, and active recall. It's also an app. It's basically a flashcard system, right?
right.
You can also do it with pen and paper, but it really helps in terms of learning things. And with learning, I mean really understanding things, not just skimming over some information, but really understanding it and
Right.
keeping it in your brain, because this is huge. This is underestimated. I've worked with many people, and um, eh, often people do not understand and cannot recall the concepts that they have learned, and this is detrimental to their work. So that's why I like this system for learning.
Right.
And apart from this, just being balanced, working with your body, um, is, I think, the greatest cheat code that you can have. You do not need so much tech. I can name some other tools, but in the end, it's really, if you can work with yourself and just a few tools, I think that's sufficient. If you can use Google sufficiently
Right.
and ChatGPT, then that's all you need. You can do everything you like. You need a computer, you need internet, and you need to be in balance and happy with
Right.
yourself. You can do everything you like in the world.
Right.
And
Right.
everything else is secondary. You can, of course, you can use other tools. Every week there are new tools, AI tools you could use, but you get lost or I get lost in the flood of new things, new shiny things that I can do. So I stay on the few things that prove to be good and just harness and utilize that.
Right, right. All right. So let's talk about just, we're just ending soon. I'm just curious. What I know you are currently finishing your masters, right? And as an AI lawyer, like I like to call you,
Yeah.
um, research is a very heavy part of AI at the moment. How do you think researchers can protect themselves as they embark on these projects from a legal point of view? Yeah.
um, can you specify what you mean with protecting?
Yeah,
So
like for example, so we did talk about, so because I don't know if it's quite standard for a lot of researchers to just know a lot of the legal implications of some of the things they are doing. Maybe it is a matter of knowing the data source. It's a matter of knowing the limits, the licenses, whatsoever. I'm just thinking out loud as AI's research keeps progressing. What kind of legal tips or what kind of tips would you give to people who are in the research space to protect themselves from any form of legal battles in the future about, like, for example, having like artists complaining about their art being used out of the right jurisdictions or the right limits, if that makes sense now.
Mhm. Well, I think if you want to be as safe as possible, I would not make anything publicly available, because as soon
Mm,
as it is publicly available, you will have to deal with any sort of consequences, right? And it doesn't matter if you're legally on the good side, on the correct side, or everything is allowed, or if you're on the other side that you did something that was not allowed. As if it is publicly available, you run into the danger that something happens that you do not want to have.
right,
And if you're an artist or you're a researcher, and you want to do something the world should also see, then it makes sense to do it in a team or in an organization,
right, right,
so you can um, make it available and publicly available, in that frame and in that organization, and also on platforms that can ensure that everything is on the right side. So if you are a researcher and you want to make new your latest research paper available, I would contribute or submit it to credited institutes that publish such papers. And
right,
also, if you're an artist, of course, you can just print something, on some homepage, your own homepage, or if you're in the crypto space, you can publish it on OpenSea.
right,
But if you want to have some serious behavior of your work that you submitted publicly, then I
right,
would cooperate with institutions that are already established, that are well known, and that can also help you and protect you, if you want to formulate it like that. But this is also, I think you can consider this in every aspect, not just art and not just
right,
research.
right, right,
Yeah. I mean, we all know it's quite difficult for people to, embrace new technologies. I mean, people are always scared of what they don't understand, right? So instead of embracing, they tend to, or we as human beings tend to fight it. I think there's a quote in one of these movies that states something like that. So for you as a lawyer, what are the strategies that you recommend to your fellow lawyers, right, in order to embrace AI effectively? And what are some of the tools, some of the AI based tools, or even regular tech based tools that you think other lawyers listening to you right now should pay attention?
Okay. I think it always depends on what type of lawyer you are and on in what country you are. So because this really makes a big difference, and it also difference. There are a lot of differences in the tool landscape, right? So as I said, let's say I'm a tax lawyer in Austria. You have a platform that is providing all the text data on court decision, on law and stuff like this. So if the first step or a recommendation for any other lawyer is to see what tools are already there in
mm,
your space, in your country, and what are other people using.
mm,
And because this differentiates so much, right?
right,
So there is no one platform
right,
that knows all the answers, because
right,
it's too difficult and too individual based. So
mm,
I would always see something like that, and the first thing I would look for is always to have a database.
mm,
Some organization, some platform that collects and organizes text, court decisions, opinions on certain jurisdiction or
mm,
court decisions.
mm,
Just have it collected and structured. If that's
mm,
available, that's already great,
mm,
because then
mm.
you have the base that you can build some machine learning, some AI
Learning on it,
tools on that,
right, right,
and then you can use that.
right.
But as I said, it's always depending on where you are and
Yeah,
what field of law you're
yeah.
pursuing,
The
because
jurisdiction, I believe it's
exactly,
limited to the jurisdiction you're in. Yeah, I think that makes sense because talking about different countries, different kinds of law,
yeah,
and different knowledge bases and different interpretations of the law. So it perfectly makes
exactly,
sense that you don't just use Chat GPT as your source
yeah,
of everything, but even if you want to use it, you have to specify the jurisdiction in which you want that law to have effect. All right.
exactly.
Mike, sorry, I said call you Michael. Daniel, just to end today's episode, I'm sure there are people out there like yourself. There are probably techies who want to enter into law, like I was reaching out
Yeah,
to you sometime.
true. Sure.
or lawyers who want to get into tech. What kind of advice would you give to people who are at that crossroad at the moment, and what practical steps can they take? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I would definitely choose the career to going in that direction. Ideally, I would start with the tech thing first because
If you had the chance to redo everything.
yeah, if you have just redo everything, I would
Yeah.
start with tech first, but it doesn't really matter because there is a need for both
Right.
expertise fields,
Right.
and it doesn't matter where you are, if you're a lawyer or if you are an developer, a programmer, a software
Right.
engineer. As a software engineer, it always makes sense to know the law around it because then
Right.
you're qualifying for a higher position,
Right.
CTO, manager, lead
Right.
developer, because you need to know what you're allowed to do with your software product and what you can um, implement, what you're allowed to
Right.
implement, right?
Right.
And on the other side, if you are a lawyer and if you are open for technology, as I said, if you are a law firm or a lawyer that does not use AI tools or the latest technology, you do not stand a chance in the
Of
competition.
competing.
You know,
Right.
imagine competing with a lawyer that is using 100% correct ChatGPT. You would
Right.
no chance, no chance.
Right.
So
Right.
I think that's the uh, yeah, I think it's the best you can do, but
Right.
it requires time and effort,
Right.
right? So it's
Time
quite,
and
quite of
effort. That was
commitment.
what I was waiting for. Time and effort.
Yeah, but it
And
might be worth it depending on your situation.
definitely. So time and effort, but it would definitely be worth it. Daniel, thank you so much for making time to talk with us. We really enjoyed this conversation. I think for me, just thinking about the legal part of stuff has really helped, settle things. And we're really grateful for your time, and we look forward to seeing you succeed in your MSc and seeing you do more great things in the AI and law space.
Thanks a lot for the invitation. It was a blast to be here, and I'm looking
Right.
forward for the next episode you
Thank
publish.
you. Oh, definitely. So, being a lawyer will evolve over time. Empathy is still an important skill in the legal space. Regardless, as tech advances, it will be to your own advantage to ride on this wave and stay competitive. Thanks for listening to today's episode of the TechServe podcast. See you in the next episode.